Welcome to episode 14 of Quadocast, entitled The Road to Janelle. First, this video is dedicated to all those who have joined the communication committee at one point in time, to the most active among us wanting to foster a better sense of community, gathering feedback and sharing information, to us. You know what's paved with good intentions? The road to hell. Janelle. For those in the community listening, I ask that you have an open mind, and especially for those who think Janelle could do no wrong. Do you think it's an accident she's on almost every committee across associations? The finance committee, the legal committee, the election committee, the communication committee that burnt down to the ground under her watch, trying to play the overachiever type to show value use either to the community or, even more importantly, the board. She has managed to systematically insert herself everywhere, very similar to Forrest Gump. Remember Gump? When he was seen with JFK or John Lennon or Nixon, perhaps? Gump, who taught us, life is like a box of chocolates. But in the case of Janelle, it's the lies. To her, lies is like a box of chocolates. Think about the MO, that of an overeager volunteer. She's positioning herself in the pecking order of the board to make sure she's always of indispensable use, to be the invisible labor doing the dirty work, or the front-running and block and tackle we've talked about. Also master manipulator and lack of genuine concern. Her motivations for self-preservation and advancement within the hierarchy. Forever trying to be the eyes and ears of everything Quadomain, act as a bird dog, or actually more like a self-appointed lapdog for the other board members. She did it for Marlem, she's doing it for Lewis, and she's doing it for Yan and Raz. She's become the fixer to the board. Even worse, she often goes rogue when she also starts controlling the outputs, being the official voice of everything. She'll say anything, and I mean anything on the spot to surf the moment. And that's where the lies start. They always start as a white lie, but like a snowball keeps picking up steam, getting worse and worse. So no matter what good intentions she ever had, it is paved ultimately to the road to Janelle. But that's becoming the norm here. We saw the same exact behavior with Lewis and Marlem. They all share the same traits. They all appear to be pathological liars, and zero evidence of any of them ever admitting anything. They also all share the trait as being some of the dumbest liars I've ever met, because the lies are provable as they leave so much evidence behind. Getting back to Janelle, in my experience, she twists facts, invents policies, manipulates information, maintain her image of infallibility. The insidious nature of her actions lies in their subtlety, which at times are difficult to detect, making it challenging to always hold her accountable. But her actions erode trust within our community, hinder effective decision-making, ultimately undermine the integrity of our board. Allowing this behavior to continue unchecked poses a significant threat to the well-being of our community. Time to give you just a few examples of what I'm talking about. So I, along with several other people in the last year, had been serving on the election committee with Janelle. And in one thread of our email communication on Thursday, September 26th, we were discussing how to get better reach of a survey we were trying to present to union owners whether they wanted e-voting or not. I was repeatedly informing the committee that we could get a deliverability report from condo control when we do blasts, that report would show what's bounced, what are dead addresses, what could get updated so we could get better reach. And finally, on that Thursday, September 26th, 8:30 in the evening, Janelle replied to another committee member that management is aware and working on the email issue, and went further to say those identified in the report were contacted, and if they responded, it was updated. I couldn't believe my eyes seeing that. I knew it was a complete bullshit lie. So how are they contacted? By email address? But that's the whole point. It was dead email address. So what? You think the office spent all this time picking up the phone and calling everyone? And then she says, and if they responded, it was updated? Well, how did they respond? What? We were leaving voice messages? All this time went by. They're replying and responding and coming back. And somehow all of that magically happened right under our noses with that much diversion of office resources. And this is standard playbook to it. I get so many anecdotes of anyone who's worked with her pulls this subtle bullshit all the time. The reason I know it's a bold-faced lie because the very next morning, Friday morning, September 27th, 9 a.m. Guess where I was? The office. Guess what I was doing? Asking the office manager, who said no, knew nothing about it, nor did anyone approach her and instruct her to do anything about it. Even though that answer was verbal at first thing Friday morning, over the weekend I was reflecting, that's not enough. I returned to the office Monday. I wanted my questions answered in writing, and at that time, the office manager mentioned how Janelle then, later Friday that afternoon, went in to first begin to talk about it. And there's that sequencing problem I talked about Janelle in a prior episode. She could say something straight to your face without blinking an eye, as if it's done and it never happened. For in that moment when she lies and says it's done, in her mind she actually believes it is, and the rest is just, well, we'll get it done. So you could see here in this above letter how I am seeking written confirmation that this was the order of events that had happened regarding the question. And you could see here in this last email exchange from the office to me, saying simply, my answer to your question is the same. At the moment you asked me about generating the report, there was no request or instruction after your visit. And then back and forth with Janelle working on finding ways to catch mistakes if any. She mentioned about the possible existence of a report and then we work together on pulling out the report to double check mistakes and then work on those emails. So on one hand, Janelle's bragging like, done deal, we did the report. She didn't even know that you could do the report. Janelle's opposed to controlling all the inputs and outputs, and all the outward bound communication to all of us are always from that point of authority. Even when she goes rogue without other board members knowing, making shit up, being the fake voice of an office is dangerous to us all and would be the biggest mistake ever for anyone in Valencia to make the mistake of voting for her for another 2 years. But the road to hell, Janelle, let's take a look at her lead on the communication committee and have some idea in part why it got burnt down to the ground after her big lie there. Another thing she shares in common with Lewis when he burnt the communication and wreck down to the ground. Like the start of everything, there are a bunch of good neighbors trying to do a bunch of good work for us. How to offer better communication from the office to the board or through newsletters, the typical type issues you'd expect from any communication committee. But the focus in this video is on one small part of the committee, which is the installation of a suggestion box as a way for neighbors to be anonymous if they want to communicate to the board, office, or committee. It all started out okay, like a road paved with good intentions. The problem with the suggestion box, it's locked, it has a lockbox key, which brings up the subject of key control, which is emblematic of most of our problems boiling down to control. You'd think having committees to foster cooperation, help, and to build trust. Protocol for getting the anonymous comments from the suggestion box back in the summer of 23 were organic. A typical exchange might be that Janelle would ask any on the committee to accompany her to pick up the suggestions. It was about the most basic check and balance, some accountability to ensure that these anonymous messages might not get discarded somehow. It's a reasonable assertion in the zero trust environment we find ourselves in, especially with so much evidentiary examples of suppression. Concern is that the board or office might not allow the committee to see any messages potentially embarrassing or overcritical to them. By November 23, it is becoming an agenda item, having discussions like reflecting or responding some of those comments in the newsletter, or the scheduling inconvenience for a board member of the office to chaperone committee members trying to get the comments the first time around. This had become an increasing ongoing concern to the point when it came out in the summer of an open board meeting that the president of QCA was so frustrated to the point of being so petty he didn't care about the nuance of who was dealing with the key. By early to mid-July, a different communication committee member went to the office in an attempt to be given the key, and that set the stage for the office to seek clarity on this issue via a series of emails. The shift is clear in June in the committee meeting minutes that was written by Asha from Valencia, who's running for the board, which memorializes what was discussed, saying no more chaperones. The condo manager should supply the key to any committee member to collect from the suggestion boxes. A member subsequently takes photos of contents and sends to our committee for inclusion into the newsletter. Minutes also reflect that they prefer other committee members speak to give committee report updates at board meetings other than the board member Janelle. So mid-July, it appears Roz is the only one who responded to the condo manager's question about key control, where she said, hey, leave things as they are. On July 15th, Asher weighed in and wrote, Janelle stated no chaperoning at our committee meeting. Why is she silent? Doesn't the condo manager not have enough on their plate? Can someone ask Roz why we need the condo manager to chaperone? So now fast forward 1 week later, July 22nd, Asha is the acting chair of the communication committee, and in her notes on the subject of suggestion boxes says Janelle has been superseded by Roz, and Roz has not provided reasoning on why the condo manager's time needs to be wasted on it. It causes complexities in coordinating schedules. Another slap in the face, in my opinion. What are the thoughts here? Then she tries to stay open and say, frankly, I don't see how we can succeed without the full support of the board, but let's discuss anyway. So Asha's still hanging in there, trying to be reasonable. 6 days later, July 28th, Janelle finally replies and writes, no one has superseded me. I had agreed with the condition that I was going to talk to the condo manager about it. And upon asking, I learned it's a liability issue. And then in parentheses, she's trying to emphasize with the communication committee and Asha, I know it's silly, but trust that people sue over anything in this community. Legal is always a big spender in the budget. It's better to be safe than sorry. I'd also like for you all to not see that it's also being chaperoned. No one is chaperoning you. Think about the 5 moving parts, just this one small paragraph alone. First, Janelle agrees she changed her position and agreed, but with the condition of talking to the office about it. Then comes up with this liability issue, which, by the way, is a bullshit and a bold-faced lie. And it's a rogue lie. The board didn't know about it. The office didn't know about it. She's making up and then pretending to be an authority again. Pretending to be the voice of the office. Do you understand how sick this is? This is absolutely sick and borderline insane. And then she has the nerve to say, I know it's silly. The very thing she made up that's fiction is silly. Janelle is playing everyone in this community. Everyone's getting suckered by her. And then to top it off, with some icing on top, she's claiming how when you're being chaperoned that no one's chaperoning you. She's freaking gaslighting everyone too on top of it. One woman show. Because to her, lies is like a box of chocolates. Might be thinking to yourself, maybe he's getting ahead of himself. How does he know that it's a lie? Well, remember that infamous email I wrote September 30th on that Monday to follow up and wanting written questions? Questions plural? Because I asked another question in that email that day. Here, let's take a closer look. I asked the condo manager, did anyone tell you, or did you tell anyone that it's a legal liability to give the suggestion box key to the communication committee member for the purpose of collecting suggestions from the suggestion box? Well, I did get a written answer. Drum roll, please. The condo manager simply wrote no. I feel sorry for her because she also had a right, but to be sure about not having any collateral connection, I'll ask our legal counselor. There's no need to ask anyone. Simple question, simple answer. It's not her fault. She works in a zero-trust, micromanaged environment. And then behind her back, without her knowledge, we have a board member posing to be her. To be the voice of the office. Janelle. Poser, imposter, liar, manipulator, deceiver, and she's punking everyone. And what makes her so dangerous is that she's actually competent at this. It is disgusting. Valencia was smart enough last year to take out Marlem, but now we're left with a bigger threat. So it is time for Valencia to take out Janelle. So Janelle wrote that line the 28th. Asha returns the next day on the 29th. What exactly is the liability? And who did you recently learn this from? Of course, that doesn't get answered because Janelle just punked Asha. Asha then writes, the next question, I guess, is there a reason to have the committee participate at all in the suggestion boxes? She's starting to capitulate over the lie. The condo manager could take photos, sent to the committee along with the replies. At the point to just, Janelle's getting what she wants, shutting the committee up. Asha then offers further suggestion to compose her own replies and content control directly, since they're directed to her answers anyhow. Like, what is the point of the committees, she's saying? And then she says, let's think through what makes the most sense. Poor Asha, she's still trying to be reasonable and rational and move business, not knowing she's being lied to. The topic of the suggestion box spilled over into the election committee, where Janelle's now explaining to everyone that the communication committee proposed the exact box and exact process for the suggestion boxes. Lie. Then she has the nerve to write, they also just proposed to have the condo manager carry out the task. Why would they propose it if she claims it was already proposed and already being done? Why would she agree with the committee, and there are many witnesses to it, of no more chaperoning, and then put in the condition, well, let me ask the office, and then make all this shit up? I'd like to make a brief statement on something else. Some people sometimes feel uncomfortable when I occasionally curse. I took those comments from last year and tried to apply a different style this year, speaking more even-keeled, being shorter, lighter, to the point. But I apologize to no one if I am cursing because they are lying. But one of the reasons I'm making this video, if you take a closer look at this email, is because she asked me to. Be sure to include it into the video. She'll make an effort to watch the one about the suggestion box. So here we are. Anyone else want to ask me to make a video or correct the record? Like Mark did in episode 10? And I know it's getting old, and I didn't want to or mean to, and even warned against that I'd prefer not to. I'm bringing up Mark again because in episode 12, I pointed out how he flagged episode 8 for hate speech, which is completely unfounded. You think it would have ended there, but this guy's just a little slow. Because now I had the audacity to have the nerve to try to flag and take down episode 12. Guy running around that the pen's mightier than the sword, that he believes in free speech. Bullshit. As long as he continues to suppress speech and attempt to take down any of these videos, he will continue to be talked about in these videos. Maybe that message is loud and clear enough. But the real issue with Mark isn't so much about the inauguration party itself. It's about how he went about it. He started out like everyone else with good intentions. He did the right thing. He took it to the board to talk about it. And after hearing from several sources, there was a consensus from the rec board to say no. But that was not good enough for Mark. He took it straight to Lewis, wearing him down, working it, wearing it, squeaky wheel. I bet Lewis caved just to shut him up, and God forbid if they did horse trade. But think about what both Lewis and Mark just did. They defied the will of the majority of that board. And that's the highest offense of all around here. And that's precisely why they should be thrown out. Lewis, Mark, and Janelle have all in different ways failed us and do not deserve the privilege to lead us or serve us, or at least not from a point of authority. We're all neighbors. They could serve on committees. They could help in other ways. But all three of them have absolutely no business serving in any form of leadership or decision-making capacity on our behalf. They've either violated our bylaws, lied to us, broke their fiduciary duty for not getting legal opinions, or failed to accept the will of the board. Okay, getting back, rounding third base here, trying to wrap up this episode. This is a letter I sent to Janelle when she pulled off that liability bullshit. I didn't know yet for a fact that it was a lie, but my bullshit detector was up big time, and I wrote to the group, if I were to do next video, reveal the bureaucratic absurdity of the board's creation of the committee compared to that suggestion box. The purpose of fostering better communications undermined by the complete lack of trust evident in requirement of the constant board or office manager supervision over a suggestion box key. It not only defeats the purpose of an anonymous suggestion box, but also sends a clear message of distrust towards the committee members and the community at large. The flimsy excuse of potential legal issues is unconvincing and, frankly, pardon my French, lame as fuck. She's lying to all of us, and she cares about me saying lame as fuck when I'm challenging the bullshit she's spewing all of us. This is where I deep dive into video of what could go wrong with a suggestion box access that would rise to the level of a lawsuit. Let me guess. The key went missing, the box was vandalized, an unsupervised person attempting to retrieve suggestions breaks a fingernail, gets a paper cut. I could go on, you get the point, or at least I hope you do. It serves only to highlight the underlying problem of the fractured relationships within the board. Such actions are counterproductive, create a climate of suspicion rather than the openness and collaboration essential for what we need around here. And I end with saying, and to all of you, the point is you probably don't want me to ever make a next video. Change was in the air last year, as evidenced by throwing Marlem out. But what's baffling, the incumbents went out of their way to stick together this year, as if everything's okay. Nothing to see here, people. Roz and Yan are running their own election in Grenoble. Why would they associate with Janelle in Valencia? Why would they run as a bigger ticket? Why would anyone stick their necks out and back up Janelle after being exposed as a rogue serial liar behind the board's back, behind the office's back, behind the committees, behind all of us, this community? I'm guessing it's out of convenience. She was a great lapdog for them. Easy for incumbent hands to stay clean when they got themselves a fixer that they didn't even ask for. Same in Britannia. All five currently in power just put out a blast to everyone that they're all running together. Makes me wonder if every board member did so knowingly and or reluctantly. And there were some talks of the blast reaching some newer members, which could only been accessed from association resources. So that brings yet even more doubt over there in Britannia. Bubbles pop, people. And there's a big, big bubble in Britannia. Okay, folks, this is the very last email to show you. Just hours after I sent the "Don't ask me to make a video" email, Janelle writes to myself, Asha, and another, and look at the highlights. I'm not going to go through the whole email. Janelle is saying to Asha, "I am not making up stories. Are you freaking kidding me?" Then she says it is what it is, which I agree with. Think about where we're at. It is what it is, and you know what to do out there. Finish the job from last year. There are so many great newcomers ready to serve, and because they're not running as a ticket, we're going to get more independent thinking and less of the clicks and the power games. We will be fine, people. Stand up and do the right thing if you want this to be a better place, because no good will come from the continued games of power and lies here. Wrapping up this email that Janelle sent to Asha, saying, "I know you put a lot of work in. Sometimes the effort's not reciprocated or appreciated by the community." Think about what she's doing to Asha. Patting her on the head, kicking her ass goodbye after lying to her. But the irony is the very last thing she says in her parting email is hoping to see you on the ballot this next election cycle. You would be an asset to the community. Janelle is endorsing Asha to run. Now they're both on the ballot running mano a mano. It's a simple question. Who are you going to pick? The incumbent, Janelle, the liar and manipulator, or Asha, the change candidate who stayed reasonable and rational despite the lies being thrown at her. You know, in an earlier episode, I said, I'm not going to make any judgments or endorsements until the Meet the Candidates meeting, and that still holds true, except for this. In this mano-a-mano matchup, it is abundantly clear to vote for Asha and throw out Janelle. In fact, Janelle stating that Asha would be an asset to the community is the best endorsement you could get. Maybe it's the one and only one thing she hasn't lied about. And on that note, I'm sorry this video went a little long, but we had to cover a lot of ground. I am wishing everyone a wonderful week ahead.